God, I need another whiz.
Yeah.
Hello, boxing fans, and welcome back to another edition of Porky's Angels, live from Andy's Cavern and everywhere around the world. We've got Bob from Canada's Boxing Channel. We've got Jamie of Porky's Corner fame, and Gerry with Magnum Tash from Porky's Corner fame. How we all doing, guys? Are we all well tonight?
Not bad.
Yeah, all
We're
good,
all
mate. All good. I'm
we're
laying
all
off the
well.
beer.
I see Jerry's got a beer there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jamie's looking like a greyhound. All that weight he's lost, shaved and lean and mean, and
It's been, well, I wish you could say the same about my airline, mate. It's looking pretty sorry for itself, but
All I
as long
can
as
say
everything
is,
else looks all right.
all I can say, you guys, I've got a special surprise for you tonight, so you'll have to wait.
kebabs.
I have
We're getting
that.
kebabs.
It's no kebabs. It's better than that, Jamie. I think you'll like this surprise better than any kebab.
Go on.
Um, if you just wait a second, you'll see. So we all good, guys. What we've been up to this week?
I've been madder than hell about Don Charles and that retarded son of his, George Fox.
I thought
Oh,
here's your surprise, James
Go
and
on.
Jerry. Bob knows about it. How we
Oh
doing,
my
Joe?
God.
What is it? What is it? I can't even see.
A big welcome,
It's-
esteemed boxing trainer and boxing pundit Julian McGowan's joining us tonight.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, mate. I tell you what, Julian, you're one of my heroes, mate. I don't even know if you remember me, but I used to write for Steve.
I do remember. Yeah, I certainly remember. We're going back a while, aren't we, Jake?
Yeah, we are. We are. I had a hairline then.
You must be short of heroes, mate. That's all I can say.
Oh no, mate. Honestly, you got me onto watching Russ, and yeah, I'm absolutely honoured. Sorry, I'm fanboying.
You're all right. It's fine. How you doing, Bob? You okay, Gerry?
Nice to meet you, Julian.
And yourself?
Andy and I, of course, knew that you were coming on, and we were saying that this would be so exciting for Jamie. We were just waiting to see what his reaction would be. So,
Yeah, 'cause I used to.
super pleased
met-
you could join us.
Yeah, I met Gary Sykes a few times. I'm absolutely buzzing as well. So yeah, lovely to see you, Julian.
Yeah, I was
Nice to
chatting
meet
to
you.
Gary today. I speak to Gary most days, and he's doing okay.
Good.
He's in good spirits. But the main reason I'm on was I chat to Andy all the time. We're becoming friends. And
Yeah.
Andy said to me, he says, "Listen," he said, "I've got Gerry drinking beer. I've got James eating kebabs. Can you bring a little bit of parliamentary procedure to the events? Bring them in line." I says, "Yeah, no worries, mate."
Yeah, you certainly need to.
Nice one, mate.
We had a scare with Jerry earlier. He thought he wasn't coming on. I thought, oh no.
Yeah.
But it's good to see he's made it.
Thanks for waiting on me, guys.
You're very welcome, Jerry. You're very welcome. I thought we'd
Let's
kick
look
off
at-
proceedings talking about Eubank Jr. and Benn, the aftermath.
Oh.
What you guys think about that?
Well,
I'm happy that we're not going to continue on about George Fox, because my blood pressure medication is downstairs and I'm upstairs.
I heard you'd started up a George Fox fan club, Bob. Is that correct?
I tell you, he's become my most hated fighter. I think he's fighting TBA in a couple of weeks, and I don't know who TBA is, but I'm rooting for TBA.
Let's go
Anyhow.
TBA.
Well, Eubank Benn. My thumbnail feeling is that it exceeded my expectations, but my expectations were set very, very, very low. There wasn't a tremendous amount of skill on display, but there was grit, determination, resilience, heart. And they put up a good scrap. I don't think they should ever fight against each other again. I think if Eubank's going to continue to campaign, it should be at 168. And Benn, well, I don't really give the south end of a northbound moose's thought about what he should do, really. But, that's it. That's my thoughts in a nutshell.
Julian?
Well, I've probably got a slightly different take on it from you guys, because you know my thoughts on the whole fight, and from like 2.5 years ago. And I was out on Saturday night. I wouldn't have paid for it anyway. I said to yourself, Andy, I says, look, I think it's going to be a tight fight. I think Eubank will beat him. principally, I don't love the fight, but I'm sure it'll be entertaining. And I remember saying to you, I don't want to come across as a know-it-all first time back on social media in 18 months, but I said to you, I think Eubank wins on points, but Benn will get some credit. Benn probably won't lose much face. And I think all will be forgotten what's happened over the past 2.5 years. So the one thing I will say, and you might all disagree, or partly agree, was I knew the result when I watched the fight, and Ring Magazine uploaded the fight on, I think it was Monday night. And when I was listening to bits of the radio and bits of the aftermath on Sunday morning, because like I said, I was out Saturday, it was my girlfriend's birthday, went for a meal. I heard about this close fight, this close fight, this close fight. And when I watched it, and regardless what I think about Benn, you know Andy, I'm always objective. And if one of my fighters loses, I will say I think he got beat. I thought whilst it was competitive, I thought the scorecards, I had it 9-3 Eubank. I didn't know anything about, the punch stats at the time. I thought Eubank easily outlanded Benn throughout the fight.
Mhm.
There's only a couple of rounds where Benn was close to land. He landed more power punches, but he didn't land more shots. And then when I saw the punch stats after I watched it, it kind of confirmed what I thought, which was you can have a close fight and you can still have one guy 6-7 points in front, as you all know. And I thought on points, I thought he dominated it in terms of points, and the punch stats confirmed my view, which was he effectively outlanded Conor Benn in every single round, not by one punch, but significantly outlanded him in every single round.
I totally agree there, and not to blow smoke up your arse there, Julian, but I've had conversations with people about scoring, and people seem to think that just because someone does well in a round, they need to award them that round. Whereas I think what we need to start doing, and I think what judges really need to start doing, is judging every single round as like its own separate contest. And, whoever's outlanding or outscoring in that round there, well, they've won. And then I think you'd get more of an objective view of the scoring, because I had Eubank 8 rounds up. It wasn't even competitive, but you mentioned about the radio commentary. I was listening to the radio because I refused to give it my patronage live.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been exactly like you for the last 2 years, Julian. I think it's disgusting. I know your thoughts, Gerry. You're going to bring that in a second, but I think it's disgusting how now, Benn he's a white knight. He's never fought for a Central Area title. He's never fought anyone with a pulse. And he's going, oh no, it'll be fine. I'll just go down to welterweight and fight for the WBC title. In what world? In a world that should be meritocracy, how do you believe that you deserve that fight? And if your name was Connor Smith, you'd have nothing to do with a WBC world title shot. It's an absolute joke.
Well said.
Yeah.
Exactly. Do you mind if I go next?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right. So I was a bit quiet. Obviously, we have a group chat, Julian, so we all chat amongst ourselves.
Okay.
And I was a bit quiet for a few days after, and sounds like you guys were worried about me, but
We were.
I was absolutely disgusted at the about turn that it seemed like everybody had taken. I was like, this is the world's worst fight in the world that all the hardcores have been talking about for best part of, is it 2.5 years? And then suddenly, didn't Conor Benn do well? Oh, it was a good fight. I don't give a shit if it was a good fight. I didn't watch it. I watched the highlights because I knew I needed to have some kind of insight into how the fight went. I said I wasn't going to watch it, and I didn't watch it because, I mean, for lack of better description, it fits into the bracket of gimmick fight for me. So I will obviously we discussed this during the week, guys, and Bob had me think about it a little bit more, and credit to obviously Conor Benn putting in a good performance. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But it doesn't dismiss everything that went before, all the problems that we had with the fight before, it doesn't make it okay to match people so crazy, in difference of weight divisions. Eubank Jr was obviously very weight trained, etc. I still have real problems with it, and the only thing I can see from this is Conor Benn's going to come out looking great, and he's going to get opportunities. He's already jumped, everybody else behind him, simply because of his name. He's not even won an area level belt. It just, the whole thing sickens me. I'm not actually really expressing myself as well as I would like to, but I feel like it's done him tons of favors, and he really doesn't deserve any of it. But as we've said a million times on Porky's Corner or just amongst ourselves, boxing's so fickle. It's crazy. It just blows my mind. So I'm still holding on to all the things that were said before, and I'll give credit to the two fighters, obviously, on the night. Well done for what they did and the efforts they put in. But the pantomime charade that followed the fight the whole way along, all the stuff with Eubank Sr. I'm not going to the fight. Doing charity runs with Michael Watson. My son's fight's a disgrace, all this type of stuff, and then shows up. I can't get behind that at all. So there you go. My rant's over.
Andy, can I jump in a sec?
Yeah.
I'm going to blow my own trumpet because I also predicted a Eubank points win, and it's so rare that I actually get something right. But anyhow, to Gerry's point, there is something really, really wrong when everybody's collective memories can be sort of expunged, and we have this sort of like new memory put in. All of a sudden, Conor Benn is elevated, past sins are forgiven. And I'm thinking a fight that's coming up this weekend. Ryan Garcia is the A side in his fight, and Ryan Garcia is being lauded. He's got immense following, but Ryan Garcia also was a drug cheat, right? Yeah. And yet he's it's seemingly. I was just down in LA where and I was talking to people about boxing. Nobody knows Conor Benn, nobody knows Chris Eubank, but people were talking about the upcoming fights. And Ryan Garcia, if anything, is now more popular than he was before he had the no contest with Devin Haney. And yet he beat Devin Haney because he was taking drugs. It's sort of like there's a definite sort of same with Conor Benn. Conor Benn outperformed some people's expectations, and so now there's this collective sort of, let's forget that he's never actually explained how he got clomiphene in his system. It's something that's really wrong in the state of Denmark, as it were.
And you've got to blame the mainstream boxing media. I feel it's them. They go along with a narrative that's maybe created by promoters or whatnot. I mean, you could hear Eddie Hearn after that in the post-fight press conference. It was an absolute embarrassment. And even talking about a rematch and bringing Eubank further down in weight and all that, absolutely disgusting. To even mention that, never mind if it was not
intended. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. And sorry to jump in there, Andy, if I may. I mean, I should have had more of a strong stance on it from the start. But maybe if I did, because I think I've said a few times, I was involved with Larry Olabamo very briefly, because he had a banning order in place for his 13 banned substances. And I'd come out of university, I'd got my law degree, and I'd worked with Steve Wood for a bit and, just doing the writing and stuff. And someone pointed him in my direction and just said, I'm in a bit of trouble. Can you help me out? So he showed me this banning order and I was trying to help him circumvent it. Now, the principled me of 13 years later, I called Larry an arsehole at that point, and I just said, you're punching people in the head for for a living, Larry. What are you doing? And he went, I'm the tip of the iceberg, Jay. He said, I agree with you. He said, and I'm principled enough myself. Yes, I'm a cheat, but I'm going to admit it. He said, and when the iceberg, when you go further down, you're going to see how rotten this sport is. And I'm sort of glad that I didn't have that principled stance back then, because I wouldn't be watching boxing now if I did, because I know we're getting a little bit off topic, and I'm going on with myself a little bit, but basically I'm echoing Gerry, because if Conor Benn would have won that fight the other night, I don't know if I could have watched boxing again, not for a very long time. The whole thing was a circus. Ryan Garcia, to Bob's point, shouldn't be anywhere near a ring. Dillian Whyte shouldn't be anywhere near a ring. Conor Benn, I was hoping that, he'd get badly beaten, and then they'd start asking him some proper questions. They won't, because he's a hero. If he gets a WBC world title shot, again, I might switch off for a bit. But yeah, I'm going on with myself.
He's rated number 3 by the WBC, which I for the life of me, I can't. Well,
how did that happen?
The non-cynical side of me really struggles to understand how that happened. But then, we're all smart enough to know that, like, Derek Chisora is number 1 IBF. We know how it happens. So I'm sort of, I'm not really. I really do understand how it happens, but I still can't believe that these guys get ranked so high, having achieved so little. There is a future fight for Conor Benn, which unfortunately Ryan Garcia is not in the WBC, but I would be quite happy to watch a Ryan Garcia Conor Benn fight, and I wouldn't really care.
Yeah, not lumps with each other. I've seen Eddie Hearn actually mention Ryan Garcia as a possible opponent for Conor Benn.
He called him out earlier,
Sorry?
I think Ryan Garcia called out Conor Benn earlier.
But they don't have a bit of confrontation at the Ring Awards. I'm sure it was a bit of face-off.
Maybe.
Try not to pay attention to that.
Why was he even there? Why was Conor Benn there? Rubbing shoulders with the heroes.
Because his last name isn't Smith.
It boils my blood. He's there on stage giving speeches and all that. Like, someone should have just turned around and gone, sorry, mate, who the f*** are you? Who are you?
Yeah. And my opinion's not changed him as it was before the fight. I too was hoping he got battered off the canvas about 6 times and totally humiliated. I didn't want to get anybody injured, but I was hoping he'd. As the fight went on, I was out as well. Julian took my dad out to a concert on Saturday night. I got back in time for the start of the second round, and as I watched it, I was expecting if Eubank was landing clean, he would probably take him out just with the size difference. But maybe his strength was depleted with the weight drain, and I thought at some point, and I'm thinking he's taking the punch. I thought he was maybe taking the punches too well, and then it just instinctively came into my head: is he on something again, or that he can take
was
all
it drug tested to fight? Does anyone know?
I had the same
fight drug tested. Does anyone know?
I don't know about the testing, Gerry, but the first thing I noticed was the size of his quads. They were absolutely huge, and I was, I am cynical where he's concerned. I'm cynical against a lot of elite boxers. I mean, the one thing I will say is Larry might have said that, it's the tip of the iceberg, and a lot of people do cheat, but there's a lot of clean boxers out there. Spend enough time in gyms to know that there were some good high-level boxers out there who are completely clean. There were a couple I won't mention names because it's too controversial, but when I went back to the amateurs for a while, I went from amateurs to pro as a coach. There were a couple of GB kids who I absolutely, well, I won't say knew, I strongly suspected. One of them's a professional now. I strongly suspected was taking growth and various other things, and you can just see the signs, and it sickens you that you're thinking that some amateurs are actually taking it. I know GB kids get tested, but to what level they get tested and when they get tested, that's a different thing. But I don't believe Conor Benn could be effective down at 147. I'm not saying he was ever effective anyway, when he was clean, but his quads look huge, his back again looked huge, and I don't know if they can boil another 10 pound off. And we all know once you move up in weight and you put muscle mass on, and it takes some serious time to put that muscle mass on, to boil that back down like Roy Jones did against Tarver, even though it was slightly towards the end of his career, like Ray Leonard did. He came back down from super middleweight and he fought Thomas Hearns to fight and Duran. Then he fought Terry Norris, drained back down to 11 stone. He was completely gone in that fight. You can't do that. So he's in a difficult situation now with Conor Benn. I don't love him. I never will. But he's in a difficult situation if he goes in for another rematch because their career-ending fights, those brutal, not just the brutal 12 rounders, but it sounds like he had quite brutal sparring as well. He's been sparring with fighters anywhere from 154 to 175 pounds, which is madness in itself. You know, that's really going to shorten his career. And there will be wars, by the way. And for him to boil back down to welterweight, it's just clearly chasing the cash. And the final thing I'll say on Conor Benn is what you never hear is, I want to be a world champion. Well, you're in the same network effectively as Ennis, as Boots Ennis, same promoter. That'd be the easiest fight in the world to make with the fight against Ennis, but he never ever mentions that fight. He just talks about WBC because my dad had that belt. Well, your dad had other belts as well. And there are other belts in world boxing. And you never hear the Ennis fight. So again, he's just looking for the easy pickings to get a WBC belt and trade off that. But I don't think he can be effective now. And I think he's going up to that weight will have shortened his career. And before we start talking about him being a young man, what is he, 28 years old now?
29 now, I think.
29. So we've been talking about Garcia and Haney and those guys and Tank. Those guys are world champions at 21, 22, 23 years old. He's 29 years old and he's nowhere near a world title. So what direction is he taking?
What I find quite odd about the whole thing is, like, I mean, you lads can disagree with me, of course, but I think if he comes up against anyone genuine world class, I mean, he won't fight Ennis because Ennis will marmalise him, but anyone genuine world class, they're going to beat him on points or they're going to severely knock him out, right? I just don't think the skill's there at all. I've never, ever rated him. People just think I've got a hate campaign against Benn. But how long can the media keep going on with the circus? Like, is he going to become another Derek Chisora fella? Like, oh, he keeps losing, but he's in entertaining fights. Surely, if you're Nigel Benn, that's detrimental to your legacy because that's your progeny there. That's your son, and he's sullying the family name. Nigel Benn didn't seem very happy on Saturday night. Seemed very upset that Conor didn't win. He was very critical of him in the post-fight interview, sort of saying, "Oh, you didn't do this enough." It was in one of the videos I saw, and I just thought, well, there's a man just trying to really just live up to his dad, and it's quite sad, really.
Yeah, it's just a freak show, Jim.
To show how the gulf, like, if we just stick with the WBC, so Devin Haney is number 1 in the WBC, and Conor Benn is number 3. I mean, could any one of the 5 of us imagine a fight with Devin Haney and Conor Benn? Like, it would be such, to my mind, I'm prepared to be corrected on this. It would be a complete mismatch.
Yeah, I'd be honest with you, right? I actually would like to see what level he is at, but because he hasn't, he's leapfrogged everything below. What the frig level is he at? You know, I'd like to know.
Yeah, he wouldn't fight David Avernician, or he wouldn't fight, was it McKinson and that? There was people shouting for him to fight way back. He wouldn't go near any of them, would he?
A couple of years ago, yeah.
Eddie Hearn was just talking big talk continually, wasn't he? Wasn't he looking at any? Why wouldn't you go domestic level and do the traditional route? There seems to be a lack of that.
Well, look at another UK fighter, Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor is rated number 10 in the WBC. Would that be a test?
I heard Eddie Hearn mention that he could fight the winner. Benn could fight the winner of Josh Taylor. Is it Echo Esmond he's fighting on 24th of May? That's a fight I was going to try and attend in Glasgow. But if Josh Taylor's at the tail end of his career as well, I think he's moving up in weight. But
still too dangerous for him. He's just too technically proficient.
Yeah. Leagues above
Conor Benn.
You're not going near him, man.
No.
Well, you want to talk about levels, Gerry? Just, I mean, consider, like, we all saw it. He was fighting a very depleted man who is way past his best. He's a skeleton himself. Chris Eubank Jr., and he couldn't make a dent in him. And he was certainly not outboxing him. Everyone was making too much of a thing. The people that scored it a draw, I think, were scoring swings rather than landed shots. Yeah. Really, all Conor Benn was doing in spurts was just, he was feinting a lot and swinging, but not landing. You don't win, you don't score points for fresh air, do you?
Chris, but the thing is, go ahead, Julian.
No, go, Joe.
Sorry about that. I was just going to say, yeah, what you said about Eubank Jr. is correct. He's depleted. He's at the tail end of his career. But no one, I mean, we see that, and other, like hardcore boxing fans will see that. But, Joe Bloggs in the street goes, "Oh, Eubank Jr., Ben put up a real good performance, and Eubank's the bigger man, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, it gives him some sort of, credibility because he beat this bigger guy, who's, at the end of his career and was totally weight drained and all the rest of it. So, it's obvious to us, but it's a badge of honor now for Conor Benn. Do you know what I mean?
I was just so hoping Eubank would have stopped him in the last 2 rounds when he was really putting it on him. I thought I was just get him out of there, but unfortunately, it didn't happen.
But I think I know why a lot of people feel the way they do. The commentating. Now, I was at the gate at LAX, so I was listening to Talk Sport, who were commentating from ringside, and if you just listen to that commentary, you had a very different impression of the fight than when I got home and I actually watched the fight, because they were really all in for Conor Benn. It seemed that every time Conor Benn did anything, Eubank was in danger of collapsing. If you listen to these guys, it was really misleading. And I think a lot of people who, watch fights on TV, they listen to the commentary, and they're led to believe something that actually their eyes are not seeing.
I think biased commentary, Bob, is a big issue, and I think I've banged on about this for a while now. Some of the fights you watch, one example that sticks in my head was Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor, the second fight. I thought Catterall beat Taylor the first fight. The second fight, I thought Taylor beat Catterall, but the comment, I think it was Richie Woodall was on commentary. I don't mind Richie Woodall as a person, but on the commentary side of things, I'm not a fan of Richie Woodall whatsoever. But he was
sickening.
He was like going on and on. Everything was Catterall this, Catterall that, and the replays between rounds of highlights, they were only showing Catterall's work. They weren't showing any of Josh Taylor's work. It was just so geared against Taylor, probably because he was deemed to have lost the first fight, even though he got a decision. I don't know how he got a decision that night, but he got it. So, but 2 wrongs don't make a right. But commentary is a major. I quite often watch with the volume down.
Well, I had a couple of conversations at work with people, because they always, from a boxing background, they always ask what I think. And the 2 conversations I had with people says, "What do you think? Who do you think won?" That was the first question I got asked. Who do you think won? And they both said they're not boxing, into boxing like we are, but they both said, but the scores were too wide. Now that's a classic example of the narrative, isn't it? So there was one line from Adam Smith that really hit me on Monday night, and it was late on in the fight, and he said, "It depends what you like." He says, "The quality of the punches from Eubank or the work rate from Conor Benn." The work rate from Conor Benn. Chris Eubank Jr. threw 320 more punches than Conor Benn. But that type of thing stays with your general public. And we get labelled haters for stating things now that we stated before the fight. So the question I want to ask is, I remember the Matchroom bandwagon, because he was angry and he was on his ban and he was going to sue everybody and was going to take it out on everybody. What we heard was the way he's looking right now, he's going to knock anyone out inside 2 rounds. The way Conor Benn is feeling, anyone he hits is not going to last 2 rounds. Now, we've had 3 back-to-back fights. Never mind, he moved up in weight. He's a light middleweight. He's never been stopped. He's a 12-stoner. He's 11 stone 6. Forget that. We knew that before the fights, and all we heard about was what Conor Benn was going to do to these 3 opponents. And it hasn't so much as come close to knocking down any of his last 3 opponents. So where's Conor Benn's power? Where's it gone?
It's gone the same place as Dillian White's that last fight he had with
Yeah.
Tete
Yeah.
was Ebenezer Tete. He couldn't put a dent in him, could he? So
Well, yeah, I mean, I've taken quite a bit of stick because I've been making suggestions about other fighters who seem to have gone from, being stopped by a jab to eating right hands like I eat cookies. It really
Yeah.
is something, like when a fighter is not particularly potent, then all of a sudden they are deadly potent and they've got amazing resilience and they can come out on the 12th round like they came out on the first, and then they're caught, and then all of a sudden they're not potent again. Like it's proof that PEDs work, right? I mean, there's a reason people take them.
And well, there's a theory, isn't there, Bob, called Occam's razor, which states that the simplest reasoning is often the reasoning you go with, and well, there it is, really. I just despise Conor Benn. It's not even the fact that he's a drugs cheat, right? It's just that there's no humility about him at all. Just all you hear in the media is, "Oh, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy." I don't care. I don't have to go and have coffee with him and all that. I just expect more of me sportsman. And
Yeah,
I mean, I've turned around and I've said, I don't think we should be holding boxers up as role models anyway. In a profession of violence, I think it's a bit odd. But if you're going to do that, and Sky TV, and all these, I know he's not with Sky, but all these promoters and all these channels, they're following this like woke agenda. Well, surely with wokeness comes, you're supposed to be humility. You're supposed to be a good person, and he's not painting himself out to be a good person. He's despicable.
What he could do, James, is he holds the key now to telling everybody what happened and what the appeal, when he won his appeal recently or whenever it was lifted, and he won that appeal against UCAD. He holds the key. There's only one person, and this has been acknowledged by Benn's team, only one person can unlock the results of that appeal and the details, and he can do that. Conor Benn can come out tomorrow and say, right, this is exactly why I was cleared, or this is exactly why the suspension was lifted. He can go and do that. No one else can do that because of confidentiality. Why would we do it? If you'd been accused of something not very nice, and you were the only person who could prove that you were innocent, you just
scream.
put it everywhere. I would scream and shout. And what I'd also do is the people like myself and like Russell and all of us, we've all labelled him a cheat, and Liam Smith and Eubank Jr. has continually called him a cheat. I'd sue the arse off us lot. That's what I would do.
You would do.
You'd all be in court. You'd all be in court, every single one of you, because I'd say, that proves I'm innocent. You call me a drugs cheat. I'm gonna take you for defamation. He hasn't sued one single person, and he hasn't released one document, including this 200-odd page dossier that proved it was. So where's the evidence?
Yeah, and he keeps saying, sorry to hijack it. Like, I'm just very passionate. He just keeps saying, I've been cleared 3 times. Well, one of those times you're acknowledging that the WBC cleared you, but then you said you didn't agree with the WBC's ruling. So you can't turn around and say you don't agree with something and then use it as a defense anyway. It doesn't work. He's just he's thick. He's not very clever. He's an idiot.
he is.
You can see that at the press conferences when Eubank Jr. was just turning them all upside down, because he's very astute, isn't he? And he's quite clever with words. Conor Benn was, he's an idiot. That's all you could get out of me.
I said that then, didn't I? Sorry. Must be an Essex thing. It's an Essex thing.
But no, it's an absolute shambles. And all these mainstream media outlets that do have access, they need to be on his case about this. They're letting it get washed away down the river now, and it should be stop it at a dam or something, bring it back, get that ironed out before there's any more fights. Get the truth out there.
I agree.
They'll not do that. They won't do it because they're all a bunch of hopeless.
No, he's a flavour of the month.
Eubank Senior for saying to the guard, do your job. He kept telling him, didn't he? And
yep.
Will they do
it would be nice if it would be very nice if any one of those mainstream outlets that have access actually found a set of genitals and, put it to fighters, promoters, coaches, managers, I've gotten to the point where I can barely stomach watching some of those mainstream channels. Like they're so up the ass of the people they are interviewing that they may as well be employed by them as a PR agent. Like really, it's absolutely insufferable.
I mean, TalkSport tried it with Fury, and he banned them from their fights and all that nonsense, didn't they? Remember, they tried to speak up against him.
Yeah.
And they weren't saying anything wrong.
No, and they weren't actually particularly vigorous. They were slightly better than being purely obsequious, and then they were barred. Like, the old-time sports journalists must be rolling in their graves listening to these camera jockeys now. But anyhow, I'm showing my age, becoming grumpy old man about all these things.
Camera jockeys. I like that.
If they all start together and sung off the same hymn sheet, they can't ban everybody. Although have nobody at their big fancy press.
Well, yeah, you have a press conference and nobody shows up, right?
Yeah.
Like who actually has the whip hand here? So anyhow,
that'd be the best scenario if nobody turned up, wouldn't it?
That would be hilarious.
Fury would love it because he could just sit and talk to himself, couldn't he? He's a narcissist. So
he's also deluded. The mushrooms in Morecambe are clearly hallucinogenic. He's now come out and said on X that he beat Usyk twice, and he's prepared to fight him a third time. I mean,
nobody wants to see that, do they? Nobody wants to see that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time on this episode, guys. So I'm gonna bring it to a close, and then we'll reconvene on over in Canada, Bob's channel, Canada's boxing channel. So big thank you to everybody. Thank you everybody for 3
minutes.
See you there.
Give us 5 minutes, Bob. Thanks to everybody for watching, and thanks to everybody for joining in, and especially to Julian as well for his special guest appearance, surprise appearance.
My pleasure.
Still see James's face.
Oh no, mate, I'm absolutely buzzing. Julian, would you mind if I took your number? I'm not going to bombard you, but
absolutely fine, mate. It's absolutely fine. Listen, Andy knows my situation with boxing now. I've not been on social media for 18 months. I'm in, I'm out, but I'm still in the gym. I'm still working. I still do bits of coaching. I still love the sport.